Hello, everyone. This is Mike from Dimensional Walking. And today I want to talk about a personal experience I had. I'll call it an adventure with a real good friend of mine named Kewaunee. I consider him a famous Sasquatch researcher. He's also an experiencer with Sasquatch, ETs. He's a healer, he's an herbalist, and he's many positive things. And again, his name is Kewaunee, and he has written several books. You can get them on Amazon. Just Google Kewaunee and they all come up. So, and I'm actually in one of them. So there you go. So about 16 years ago, I was with Kewaunee. We were doing one of our little mini expeditions, as I like to call them, in Eastern Washington, in a national forest campground near the Colville Indian Reservation in the little town of Colville, Washington. So we're staying there several days. And some of the days we were the only ones in the campground. Other days there may have been one or two people or families that were also occupying it, but it was a large campground, so nobody bothered anyone. So there's plenty of room between the campsites, etc. One day, Kewaunee brought over one of his friends who was a county sheriff of the local county there. And he was telling us some really interesting stories about Sasquatch. Come to find out after the conversation, I come to realize that it wasn't much of a big deal there to have encounters with Sasquatch. Many times people would report them or not really report them, just talk about it among themselves of, Sasquatch stealing apples from their orchards or something from their gardens, or just peeking around the tree, just giving a curious look to them. So nothing bad, nothing dangerous, nothing scary, just kind of common sightings of Sasquatch in this particular area. So I thought that was pretty dang interesting, to be honest with you, because, anywhere else in the country would be a big thing, but up there, because of the many sightings, it wasn't that much of a big thing. So anyway, so that was with the sheriff. And then that night, I think it was actually that night, we were laying in our tent to go to sleep, and everything around us went totally silent. I don't know if you ever heard this, if you were in the woods or whatever, and all of a sudden you were there, maybe sitting quietly somewhere, and everything goes silent. No crickets, no owls, no other kind of creatures in the forest moving around, deadly silent. And it's actually very beautiful, a little scary, but really beautiful. So anyway, so that lasted for several minutes, and then all hell broke loose. All around us, there was something bouncing around or pounding heavily on the ground and hollering and hooting and carrying on. I've never heard anything like this before. Such a tremendous commotion. Every hair on my body stood straight up. It was incredible. And then Kewaunee had probably enough of it, and he went out of the tent. He stuck his head out of the tent, and everything went quiet, back to normal. Crickets, etc., etc. So anyways, of course, we speculated pretty heavily. Unfortunately, the ground was very hard. It hadn't rained in a long time, so the ground was hard, and we couldn't really, the next morning, we didn't pick up any kind of tracks or anything. Now, there seemed to be a lot of stuff moved around, little sticks and pine needles, but really couldn't determine footprints. But we can pretty much speculate that's what it was. And it probably was a dimensional Sasquatch, because as soon as Kewaunee stuck his head out, everything went quiet, but he didn't see anything. Of course, it was night. It definitely was night, but the suddenness of the change of the atmosphere was pretty interesting. So then the next night, I will call this next little part of our journey, was the close encounter. So again, we're in the tent. And by the way, it's a moonlit night. So was the previous night, by the way. So I could see Kewaunee across the tent on the opposite side. And this was a large tent. And so he started snoring. So I was sitting there trying to decide if I should throw a shoe at him or something to keep him from snoring, because otherwise it's going to be a long night, since he got to sleep before I did, before I started snoring. So anyways, so I was just sitting there making up my mind what to do. And suddenly something comes in, and I could feel this thing on my I believe it would have been my left shoulder, because I was laying on that side, looking across the room, across the tent. And there was something heavy, firm, but gentle on there. And I didn't move my head. I didn't know what it was. I didn't move my head, but I could see out of the corner of my eye, basically it was a big hairy hand, huge. Again, it wasn't kind of crush me or wasn't going to do anything, but it was just there. It was just there. And it seemed like it was there for 10 minutes. I didn't seem to be afraid. I guess I was more in awe of what was going on, because I did realize it was Sasquatch. What was amazing, of course, was that he had put his hand basically through the tent without damaging the tent at all. That I found out because the moonlit night after the event was over, I just laid there for a while and just thought about it. And then I just went to sleep until I woke up in the morning, and I told Kewaunee what happened, and he didn't seem very surprised. He seemed to imply that he had asked them, the Sasquatch, to make a close encounter. So and I had gone on with him for many adventures, and not that they weren't amazing, but I never had what I would call a close encounter with a. I could see, we took photos. I took a photo of a Sasquatch at long distance. I've gotten some other vortex type Sasquatch pictures in the past, but I never had this type of close encounter. And I don't think too many people have. A lot of times they can see Sasquatch, but most of them don't have a Sasquatch put their hand on his shoulder, which I was grateful of. It was incredible, and I'll never forget it to this day. So that's my story today. It was a short one, but that's my story. So visit our website, of course. Our YouTube channel is Dimensional Walking, a paranormal journey. And if you want to contact us, share some stories of your own with us, it's dimensionalwalking@gmail.com. So with all that said, happy trails until we meet again. Thank you very much.